Hi, my name's Heather Bond and I'm a school counsellor with the Exchange, and I'm also a researcher. I've spent the last 7 years studying self-compassion, and I learnt from a rather amazing lady called Kristin Neff, who is the world's leading self-compassion researcher. I went to New York to train with her. So in this 40-minute workshop, I am hoping to tell you a bit about what self-compassion is, what it isn't, and how you might use it to really help yourself feel steadier during troubled times. So at its very simplest, self-compassion is directing kindness towards some kind of difficulty, some kind of struggle. It has a slightly more complicated definition in the research, and it's worth unpacking for you, so I'll do that later on. But just for right now, kindness directed towards a difficulty. And what it's not is self-pitying. So by that I mean experiencing a difficulty and feeling like our difficulty is the only difficulty in the world that's worth paying attention to. So it's not about saying my difficulty is more important than somebody else's, more about just saying that each of us is equally deserving of kindness when we're having a struggle. Another common misconception or wrong idea about self-compassion is that if we can just be kind to ourselves when something's gone wrong, then actually we could just get away with behaving badly over and over again, because it's almost like just knowing that we can forgive ourselves when we've done something wrong. So self-compassion is really about having an eye on our long-term well-being. So for example, it's not about, I don't know, eating a whole chocolate cake every day because that's kindness, because I'm having a bad day. It's really not that, because that's not thinking about our long-term well-being. And the other kind of common idea that people sometimes have about self-compassion is that it's weak, it's kind of soft. And actually, I would say it's quite the opposite, because to turn towards our difficulties rather than run away from them or pretend they don't exist actually takes a lot of courage. So before we talk a bit more about self-compassion and engage in some activities around it, maybe you'd like to discover how self-compassionate you currently are. So here is the self-compassion scale for youth that was created by Kristin Neff and colleagues last year. So there's 17 questions. Maybe you could just pause this video and take 5 minutes to go through your answers. Just thinking about them carefully, trying to be as honest as you can. And then you can add up your score at the end. So the score is the number that's just to the right of the box that you're ticking. And once you have added up your score, you can then press play again on this recording and discover what the kind of rough range of scores in the validation study was, so that you can see whether your score might be a little bit on the low end or on the high end or somewhere in the middle. So the idea of this workshop is to help you deal with troubled times, and I guess very generally speaking, we at the time of recording this workshop we're going through a pandemic, so that's definitely troubled times. But I guess we could also think about troubled times as being in much finer detail. So we will have difficulties that pop up throughout our day that feel at times really difficult to navigate, and especially when they kind of heap up, when they mount up. So I guess we could think of a troubled time or a lightning strike as being just something quite simple. For example, a friend doesn't text you back when you've texted them, and you can see that they've read your message. That can bring up some really difficult feelings, and it's a great example of a troubled time, a lightning strike that we might want to use self-compassion to help us with. So let me kind of boil down this idea of moment to moment difficulties just a little bit more. So something goes wrong, and then we give it meaning and we try to work out what caused it, because we want to make sure that this doesn't happen again. So for example, you send a text and you don't get a response. You might think, my friend doesn't like me anymore. And you decide what this means for you. This is terrible for me. Maybe I won't have any friends anymore. This is awful. I must be a really horrible person because this is the second friend that I've fallen out with this week. So these are some really difficult thoughts that are coming up around how we've evaluated the event. And then, based on how we've evaluated this event, this thing that's happened, some really difficult feelings can come up. So for example, the friend doesn't text back and we evaluate it to give it meaning along the lines of, oh, okay, my friend saw the message, but they were too busy to text me back right now. So they'll get back to me later, that's okay. If that's how I evaluate the event, then I'm probably going to feel pretty okay. Might still feel a little bit kind of insecure, a little bit wondering, but on the whole, pretty okay. If I evaluate the event as, oh my God, they hate me now, this is awful, this is terrible for my life, I'm not going to have any friends now, then all sorts of really difficult feelings might come up along the lines of feeling ashamed about who I am, feeling really lonely, isolated, lost, sad, all sorts of things. And then to kind of heap misery on top of what's already difficult, what we often do is resist the way that we're feeling and really kind of fight that. We try and problem solve, we try and work out, why am I feeling this way? I shouldn't feel this way. I must be a really rubbish human being to not work out how to fix this, how to feel better. There's something wrong with me. We can really engage in negative self-talk. So self-compassion is the perfect antidote or kind of medicine for that to help us. So self-compassion has 3 ingredients. The first of those is mindfulness. So you might have heard of mindfulness, but maybe not have a really clear idea of what it is. It's quite simple to do in many ways, and you actually already know how to be mindful, but it's kind of hard to describe. So let me give it a go and just say in the simplest kind of way of describing it, that it's about knowing what's on your mind and holding what's on your mind in this kind of balanced awareness. So it's like having a perspective, almost like being on a mountaintop and being able to kind of see the landscape below. So instead of being really kind of tied up in the story of what's happening, we can kind of take a bit of a step back and ask ourselves, will this problem be important a week from now, a month from now, a year from now, 5 years from now? And sometimes that can just help kind of disentangle us a little bit from what's going on right now. And that disentangling and seeing whatever's happening as a passing experience rather than something about who we are is really what mindfulness kind of invites. So it's the difference between I'm an unlovable person, and just recognizing that who we are is separate from our behavior, and how we behave in one moment and what happens in one moment is very different to how we might behave or show up in the world weeks, months, years later. And the second ingredient is common humanity. And that ingredient really just invites us to remind ourselves, although we may feel really alone in our difficulty, actually, if we take a moment to pause, we might remember that there are currently around 7.8 billion people on the face of the planet. And right now, many of them, so many, will be going through a very similar difficulty, and they will be kind of feeling that there'll be loads of people feeling the same way that we're feeling in any moment. So it's the difference between I'm all alone and there are so many people right now around the world who will be feeling the same way that I do, so I'm not alone. And then the third ingredient, self-kindness. And really, self-kindness is an antidote to self-criticism. We can be really good at just getting into negative self-talk when something is going wrong. So self-kindness invites us to treat ourselves like we might a best friend. So instead of saying there's something wrong with you, you really suck at this, instead we might say to ourselves, you've got this, keep going, this is hard, but you'll get through it. So it's speaking to ourselves with words of encouragement rather than words of criticism. So how do we do this self-compassion thing? How do we practice it? So in a moment, I'm going to be inviting you to engage in a couple of activities that can be really helpful in kind of warming up our attitude towards ourselves. But before I do that, I wanted to introduce you to what I like to think of as kind of well-being first aid. So if we fall down and scrape our knee or something, then we are used to doing first aid for ourselves physically. We might go grab a plaster. So this self-compassion break that I'm going to just talk you through and lead you through in a little moment is a way of giving ourselves first aid in the moment of a difficulty. And the easiest way to grow self-compassion is to practice with little things, so that is kind of our go-to when something bigger happens. So there is this little practice called a self-compassion break that incorporates the 3 steps of self-compassion, the 3 different ingredients: mindfulness, common humanity, and self-kindness. And so it's something to do in the moment. So if you want to right now, you could try this out with me, or if you don't want to, then you can just fast forward about 3 or 4 minutes and you'll get to the activities. So I'm going to invite you to just bring a small difficulty to mind, nothing that's going to overwhelm you right now. So maybe a small difficulty like, I don't know, you started to do a bit of schoolwork and your pencil broke and it kind of annoyed you. Or I don't know, your hamster is being really noisy in his cage and it's making it a bit hard to concentrate. So practicing with something quite small. So the first stage of the self-compassion break is to just notice there's a difficulty here. And this might seem really cheesy, but I find it really helpful, and many others find it helpful, to just place a hand or both hands over the center of your chest or just somewhere else that kind of feels comforting in a way. So some people like to just kind of fold their arms and just imagine kind of giving themselves a hug, but it's a really kind of stealthy way of giving yourself a hug. Nobody looking at you is going to kind of realize what you're doing. So soothing touch, and then just noticing, here's a difficulty, just taking a moment to pause, notice any sensations of warmth or pressure. If you are using soothing touch, and just noticing what that feels like kind of helps to bring you a little bit more into the present moment and help you to be a little bit less wrapped up in the story. And then step 2, the common humanities step, is to just remind yourself that there are so many people in the world right now who will be feeling the same way as you. So just reminding yourself that you're not alone. And then the third stage of the self-compassion break, the self-kindness, is to just remind yourself of an intention to be kind to yourself. I'm going to really suggest that you maybe try and find phrases for the self-compassion break that reflect your own words, because that will be much more meaningful to you. So for example, step 1 might be, I notice I'm struggling right now. Step 2, so many people out there around the world. What is it? Yeah, 7-8 billion nearly people. I'm not alone. There's going to be loads of other people feeling this way. And then step 3, be kind. You might use your own first name in there. That can really help to alert you to your own self-talk. Be kind to yourself right now, Heather, is what I say to myself. And just remind myself that I deserve kindness, just like every being deserves kindness. And you might ask yourself, what does kindness actually look like in this moment? Do I need something right now? And what might that be? And we can practice self-care as well if we feel like something is needed in this moment. Just doing the self-compassion break, it's not quite enough. It's kind of turned my mind towards what I maybe need to be doing right now, but maybe a soothing bath would be just what I need to help me right now. Maybe I need to just connect with somebody, parent, carer, friend, maybe just need that. So just asking yourself, what does kindness look like right now? And often just doing the self-compassion break is enough. So I've got an activity for you to do now if you want to. I like to take around 10-15 minutes over this, but you might want to take shorter or longer depending on how meaningful it feels for you. So this is an activity that can really grow our feeling of being supported in the world, can help to connect with a feeling of common humanity, that there are others out there that are kind of there as our support. So just asking you to think about in your life, who do you feel has kind of genuinely got your back, has your best interests at heart, who wishes you well? It doesn't have to be the person in your life, even right now, that you could feel that a pet just has some kind of unconditional, loving kind of vibes about it. So pets are okay to include. So you can do this in the kind of old-fashioned paper scrapbook, printed out photos kind of way, or you might like to go to canva.com and choose one of their templates for a collage. So including anyone who's had a positive influence on your life in any way. So it might be family members, could be friends, could be teachers, could be actually people from your wider family. Maybe you haven't seen them for quite a long time. It could be people from around the world if you have family members kind of spread around the place. There's not really anybody wrong to choose if you feel like the existence of this person gives you a sense of kind of support and connectedness. And here is a circle of allies that I've created for myself. As you can see, it's quite simple, just a gathering of people. So when I look at that poster, I feel supported, and that really helps when I'm struggling. So hopefully there'll be something in this that you enjoy. If you want to skip to the next activity, that's fine too. Yeah, so press pause, maybe give it a go, and then press play again when you're ready to continue. So just before you start this activity, you might find it helpful to just pause for a few moments. And if you did take part in the previous activity, just reflecting on how did that feel? What kind of feelings came up for you as you created your circle of allies? And if some good feelings came up, then just maybe allowing yourself to linger with those for a little bit. That means just to sort of stay with them a little bit, because we often notice the difficult feelings and don't pay so much attention to the good feelings. So in this next activity, the last one in the workshop, I'm going to invite you to just do something, some activity that helps you to warm up your attitude towards yourself. So I have included something that I made, a poster that I made for myself when I was doing this activity. Again, canva.com has some great templates. There's a heart-shaped template that I chose to then replace the photos in it with photos from my phone, from my computer, that represented different aspects of me, things I like to do, people I like to connect with, some of them just good memories, other things reminding me to sort of have confidence that I can do things. When I look at some of the kind of daft things that I've done, like rock climbing and parachuting, that kind of stuff. So whatever it is that you like to do, the people in your life, the things that you've done, anything that helps you to remind yourself that you are really deserving of kindness, that you're a worthwhile human being, because you certainly are. It might not be photos that you want to work with. You might want to just kind of browse the internet for inspiring images. You might just want to get paper magazines and cut them out and stick them on paper. Just anything that helps you connect with this idea of kind of becoming your own best friend. Probably one of the best things that we can do for ourselves in our lives is to learn to give ourselves the support and encouragement and nurture that we need. So go to canva.com, choose a collage template, intend to warm up your attitude towards yourself, and remember there's no wrong way to do this. So yeah, just engage in the activity in whatever way feels meaningful to you or not. Really hope that there's been something in this workshop that's been helpful for you. And I really hope that you find the steadiness that you need to deal with the challenges that you face. So this workshop was intended to help you with your inner resources to deal with stuff, but it's not always possible for us to deal with our difficulties on our own. So if you feel like your challenges are overwhelming you, then please feel free to reach out to your school counselling service. So just get in touch with the school, ask your pupil support teacher to get a referral into counselling, and you can have a safe space to talk to somebody about what's going on for you.